Hi, everybody. It's Ed and Krista from the Krista&ed show, and we're so excited today. We lassoed somebody in named Tony Park, who's from Tasmania, and it was really cool because he just literally landed in Canada, is in Toronto right now, so it's the same time zone. It's not us trying to interview him at 3 in the morning. So I'm going to introduce you, Tony. Tony's an international bestseller, business award winner. He's working on a PhD. He has an MBA. He has diplomas in accounting, marketing, leadership, training. He's currently a speaker, an academic, and a business gardener, which I'm kind of interested to hear your approach when you talk about business gardening. And we want to welcome you to the show. And we're super excited that you took the time out because I know you're at a conference and you're literally, running from the conference to your hotel room, taking the interview, and then going to probably run back to your events. So thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on. As you say, it's much easier than being at 3 o'clock in the morning. My body clock's already 14 hours out, so I should be sleeping at this time back home. But it's now lunchtime, and thanks for the opportunity to be able to talk to you guys, but also to anybody listening as well, because it's a great, exciting topic that you've got.
Yes. Oh, thank you so much. So we were talking a little bit beforehand, and we are like, wow, what has Tony not done? Like, you have quite the bio there. So why don't you just, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do, what your story is, and I don't know, talk about whatever you want. Keep it PG.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Sort of grown over time, and it gets a bit exhausting from time to time on some of those things that I've been fortunate to be able to do and to be involved in. Some are at a local level, with the local chambers of commerce, but also scouting. It's in 30 years involved with scouting and those sort of local organisations. But it then gives you opportunity to give you knowledge, but experience and those opportunities to be able to do things at a statewide or national or international level, and certainly with the Chambers of Commerce, I was involved with JCs as World Vice President, had the opportunity to be able to work with a lot of countries, especially into Asia, and with our state and national Chambers of Commerce, and finally with the Asia Pacific Confederation of Chambers of Commerce, I was Vice President of that. So I've had that fortunate opportunity to be able to do a lot into the Asia Pacific area. And Australia, even though our background's English and European, we see ourselves now as part of that greater China, greater Asian market, and some of those influences start to stem from that. And one of the major ones, and I was really interested in the topic and the thought process with you guys, was about family and how family is really important for business, but also for life in general, and how understanding that can take you forward. So, yep, I've had this great opportunity to do all these things, but more to be able to meet people like yourself from all around the world.
I love it. Awesome. So you're married, you have a beautiful wife, and she is a teacher?
And she's a teacher, yes. So she's been a teacher for nearly 40 years, and we've been married for 38 years. So we've...
You figured some things out.
Yeah, exactly right.
Because you're the entrepreneur and she's not. So
it's one of those ones. Because my dad was that, and I've been able to learn from him. And we were, one time when I first met us, we were working 7 days a week, selling RVs, caravans, trailer things we call them here, but in Australia, caravans. And you're working 7 days a week, and that's a different lifestyle than what she's been known. She was a teacher, and her parents were working in a different environment than that entrepreneurial type environment. And there's things that, as you say, you do have to work out on that life's journey together. But I've got 2 kids, and one of those is a teacher. So she teaches junior kids. And my son is a doctor, so he's gone through that journey being a doctor, and now put his hand up to be an anaesthetist. So his education continues. Oh, sound's gone.
Oh, there we go. Sorry. So you said you have 2 kids. So do you have a son and a daughter, or?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. One Yeah, so we've replaced ourselves in the population.
Guess that's a way to look at it, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so how about, I've been really curious about your best-selling book. So could you tell us a little bit about the book?
Yep. So one of the challenges looking to move forward, and when I started to look into even reinventing myself again, and I've done that over many different times across different segments, and I've been fortunate to be able to grow some businesses, and you have some good times and some not so good times. So life's a balance in that way. And one of the times was just a few years ago. I looked to reinvent myself again, and one of the opportunities was to deal with a company out of the States called Celebrity Branding, and they were able to organise with me to be able to put down some ideas, some concepts which I've got on business tribes, and to be able to work with Brian Tracy, who's well known in the States, but not so well known in Australia. And we're able to bring my stories, his and others together, and that was marketed, and that was an Amazon best-selling book, and that then
awesome.
gave me a basis at core to be able to see that my ideas were positive, and then to be able to take that forward. And now I've done another book, a full book just on the tribes, and there's another 2 or 3 in the pipe work that flows from that as well. So.
That's so awesome. Writing a book is also on our bucket list, so we may have to, talk to you when we actually make our way to Australia and getting some tips on that. So
we heard it can be painful to do, to really get it out and
no, I think it depends how you do it. If you just follow my lead, everything will be nice and easy. I'm just kidding.
In Australia, we have a thing called yes, dear.
Yes, dear. Yeah, I'm still, I try.
He'll learn. So,
I actually did the second book, Business Tribes, which I did with a company just over a weekend, would you believe? And that was the core base of us. And they had a structure to look at 12 chapters and a structure within those chapters. And they did an audio process where you did it on a tape, and then it got sent away to someone actually put the typing down. Didn't work so well with me, but it gave you a core then to be able to change, and then just editors involved and away from there. But I found that was a really good way to have a core of what I was looking to put into the business course. And then from there, this weekend that I've come 33 hours from Tasmania here to sunny Toronto, which is to actually look at membership sites and to be able to look at opportunities to be able to do it on a regular recurrent, other than just selling a course. So the book was the core, and then these others flow from that.
Awesome. So how can we get a copy and our viewers get a copy of your book? Where do we go to get that?
It's because it's a free plus shipping opportunity to be able to.
Whoa, that's even better. Where do you get it?
So on businesstribes.com.au is the website where all of those process and programs are going to be, and then from there it goes on that opportunity to get that free shipping and
that's great.
And a whole range of other opportunities that flow from there. So.
Awesome.
And if you could give one tip to our listeners, what would that be? Like, if there's something, I mean, I got to tell you, like, when I looked at the list and I'm trying to remember it to introduce you, I was just like, oh my God, I'm going to mess this up, right? But, and there's such a range, from accounting to marketing. And typically you're marketing, that's who you are. If you're accounting and you're doing the bean counting, you're complaining about the person spending the beans. You know what I mean? So we'd love, a tip, one of your top tips for our listeners.
One of the tips, and I've got with me, so some of you people may know about a boomerang. So a boomerang is a tool from the Australian Aborigines where it was thrown, and if it's thrown correctly at a hunting animal, it'll kill the hunting animal. But if it misses, it always comes back and you can grab it and do it again. It was pretty unique in the world, and it's still being used by some people in the tribal areas. But the concept is really good, that if you have your tools right and able to use them properly, then they'll achieve for you what you want them to achieve. But you've got to use the tools, you've got to use the stuff. And I was fortunate that over my time, I had some businesses with my dad, and I was able to do some things with him. And then when he passed away, it was with my mum. And I've been fortunate to do lots of things, but one of the really, really important ones, and we were just talking before about it, Australia's known for its bugs and its snakes and its crocodiles and a whole range of things that can get you. But my dad, unfortunately, he was stung by a little ant, what we call jack jumpers, and they're only in Tasmania and in some parts of South Australia. But he was stung by a little jack jumper and died. And one of the really positive things, that, if there can be a positive, because it was pretty hard at the time, obviously, was that my mum and I, we funded some research into desensitising people with those jack jumper stings, and now he was the last one to actually die from those stings. So you can actually go through a course that was funded by the research that we're able to do to make it happen.
Wow.
So I think that family is really important, that with the tools, if you use it right, you can achieve whatever you want to achieve. And that things always come back to you. So the cool things you can do for your family, cool things you can do for your community, makes you feel really good about where you are in the world and what you have achieved, but what you can help others to achieve as well.
That's awesome. Yeah.
One of the things for us now that we're joining businesses, we're kind of dissolving the other ones and joining together on this new venture. And why we started the podcast is because there's so many parallels between, partnerships and relationships in business, with your employees, with your clients, with people, and then also, in person, right? So it's such an interesting topic, and I wanted to tie it together. And what you just said is exactly that. It's also like the law of attraction, right? Mm-hmm. So,
positive and negative, like
you're
throwing what's good out there, it comes back. If you're throwing the negative out, unfortunately it comes back. And
I think, like, for us, like for me anyways, like I really want to keep the family thing top of mind, like I might be getting a bit vulnerable here, but I don't come from, the perfect family scenario. Neither one of us does, right? My parents were divorced when I was probably 2 years old. They don't even remember them together. Thank God, because I know them as separate people. I don't know what they would have been like together, but there's lots of siblings, and opportunity wasn't always there for me as a child. So it's something I'm very passionate about, trying to break some of those cycles for my kids, going forward. And I think just talking about it and hearing those kind of stories, like you just said about your dad, may he rest in peace. You took something that was very tragic and horrible and turned it into something very good for the world, right? To save other lives. So that's amazing.
Yeah. But I think that's important, that, you can get bogged down in the negatives, you can get bogged down in the bad stuff. And, and I've been fortunate to do some good stuff, but I've had some bad stuff as well. And, and you can, it can really bog you down. And that's why I got involved at uni, at a age of, 58 or so, went back to uni and did this MBA and now doing the PhD. That's an whole interesting process. And but part of that is to change some negatives into some positives, and it certainly has. And do some stuff with ClickFunnels with Russell and funnel hacking guys, and now here with the tribes. That's been really interesting and positive. And some of that is just reinforcement of those positive things. Being an entrepreneur can be pretty lonely. And family entrepreneur can be even lonelier. The rest, you've at least you've got each other that you can talk about things and have that those adult conversations and those adult times when that you're not going to talk about business, and that you've got family time with with the rest of your family. But for a lot of people, they don't have that opportunity, and it's just them on their lonesome, or their partner, like my wife, just can't understand why you just can't go out and get a job.
Yeah. And, you know, it's something too that we're working on, and we thought, you know what, this is a great way to also work through it as we go.
Therapy.
But also, you know, be visible to other people so that they can also understand that this is actually normal, right?
Yeah.
You know, also for your wife to understand, you know, anybody, it doesn't matter if you're in business, both of you, one, two, aren't, you're an employee, like, you know, it can relate to so many people. And I guess it just all comes back to that core of, you know, what's important, where are you spending your time, and when you do have that time, are you present? Yeah. And same within business, right? If you're not actually present and focused, you're just going to go in circles anyways. You might as well stop doing it and come back. Yeah. Right.
I'd like to go back to what you said about the loneliness of being a business owner or entrepreneur, you know, because you basically have people working for you who are kind of your friends, but they're not your friends. You can't really relate with them. And if you don't have the balance at home and you come home and you feel kind of isolated, you don't have a mentor. And I think actually there's a lot of good and bad stories about, you know, parents that are mentors, like having a father. Some people, there's a succession that's a conflict, or there's a succession where it goes really well and the person is able to learn a lot of positive stuff from their father. Or family members. I mean, it's huge. So, I mean, that's one of the great whys for this, podcast for us is to, you know, give an entrepreneur or a business owner that might feel lonely or isolated a bit, they can listen to this and they hear that people can relate to there's reoccurring themes. Yeah. Relating.
I think, and you could probably agree with this too, especially the online world. Like my friends look at me with like 8 heads when I try and explain to them what I'm doing. They just don't get it. They actually kind of look at me sometimes with sympathy, like, oh, you know, like, I mean, so that's where, like, you know, like ClickFunnels and the coaching program we're a part of is awesome, because I honestly feel so at home and, you know, connected. Like, I have never met you in person, but it's like law of attraction, right? Like, I'm like, okay, these people, they get me, I get them, and I don't even have to explain it. So that is so powerful. Yeah. And I want to bring that to other people who aren't part of this community so that they can understand that there are people out there that get you. It doesn't have to be so lonely.
Yeah. Well, that's right. And there's 2 things in that. One is that there's no right and wrong. There just is. And it's up to the person to be able to take that is forward to where that they want to be. One story on that is there's a program out there called Fish. I don't know if you ever come across that. So it was based on the fish market in Seattle, and it was about having the positive attitude at work, because you're at work longer than what you are with your partner, and it's up to you whether you see it in a positive way and how can work together and have a bit of fun and see that as an opportunity, or you can be moping in the background and feel bad about it and you know, curse inside, all that you want. But it's up to you on your attitude on the way that you be. The other thing, and I've just forgot what it was. It was a really important point too.
Oh my gosh! Just such good conversation, right? Yeah. You're thinking quicker than you're talking.
Oh, so it's about that tribal thing, and one of the things I've been involved with is some people may know it as JCs in the States. That's where it started from JCs. And he's all right. He's in the background.
He came and attacked us.
Yeah. Junior Chamber of Commerce around the world, and I was fortunate to be world vice president at one point, and I was talking with Taro Aso. So Taro Aso I think he's a current foreign minister, or he was the foreign minister for Japan. He was prime minister at one point, but but he was a major player within the junior chamber movement in the world, and he was at this conference, and he was saying that in his time as in political life, that he could tell when somebody had, you know, some learning or some knowledge to be able to put across a point of view, and he would ask them whether they were JC member, and if they said yes, suddenly there was that relationship. Suddenly there was something that they'd been through, and he said at that point they'd quickly make a agreement together, because they knew that because of that respect from each other and that understanding that there'd be a win-win situation. Then he said, it's us against them.
Yeah.
It's that sharing thing. With our case, it's something across the world. That two-comma thing, that click funnel process, that sharing that we're going through those challenging times to be able to come out the other side, that we can see this really strong vision. And I think that's the families that you can share that vision. And I could have only have done those things in my life because my wife understood and respected that opportunities were there, but also I was able to understand and respect those times, put that balance into life as well. That it was a shared thing. That was something that we can make our lives, whatever, rightly, wrongly, whatever, but it was those actions happen.
Yeah, I love it.
Cool. So we have a question to ask you. We want to know what your superpower is.
My superpower. I think my superpower is understanding. If I can explain it, my topic is about looking at travel agents in China, tourism product in Tasmania, and understanding the bond between those people and the thing called guanji. So guanji is seen as a person-to-person relationship. So the only way you can have a person-to-person relationship in a positive way is to have that understanding of people. So understanding their problems, understanding what they're looking for, understanding that you've got solutions for their problems rather than you just trying to sell something. And then that creates respect and trust. So they then trust you that you're going to have a solution. It's not about price. It's about buying their problem. And then that trust, then they become advocates for you. But it's that two-way street at the start, is that understanding of each other and that creating that trust and respect. I think that's, with those things, you can change the world.
Yes.
Yeah.
That
Absolutely.
is a really good superpower to have.
So do you have any questions, a question for us, or of any kind, or any questions?
It's one of those ones. I was fortunate that our kids had sort of grown up a bit when I really got involved. Now, saying that, there was many times, I was in a conference in Japan and my wife brings up and our daughter had fallen off the monkey bars and broke her arm. And she would have been 6.
Yeah.
4, and take him to the hospital. I take her to the hospital and get a bandaged up, and she had to pack the bird up and in the car, because we lived a fair distance from the hospital, and stay overnight in the hospital. That's when they were young. But I still find there's just times that you can't be around all the time. How do you cope with, because I saw that you got little tacker, what we call little tacker in Australia.
He really is one.
Yeah, to be able to manage those home times. How do you find the time, or even when you have to go away, when you have to not be around, how you can manage that process between yourselves?
I think we play defense for each other. We do support each other. If I'm away for business or working and I get home, a lot of times I say, hey, I'm going to just take over. In fact, I try to opt to do that a lot. I do kind of joke and say I don't get a lot of time by myself, because if I'm going to the store, I usually have a herd. We have 4 little ones. Well, 2 not so little, but we have a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old, and they typically want to go wherever I'm going, even if it's the most boring trip on the planet, even to the grocery store. So I try to do that so that we kind of play defense for each other, so that's kind of the cool thing, having the dynamic duo.
Yeah. So he used to be the one to travel more often than me. Right. Now that, we're part of the coaching program, we have lots of travel ahead of us. We went to Funnel Hacking Live as well. So we're fortunate that we have 2 grandmas, my mom and his mom, that help out with the kids. So his mom works nights, my mom works days. So we kind of juggle them here and there. So that's been working for us so far. And you know what? The cool thing about technology nowadays too is FaceTime works awesome too. Like they're like, oh yeah, my son Jax is actually, this is so funny, and he'll probably ask about you now too, but my kids see these videos and the things we're doing online, and they see and hear a lot of, you know, Russell as well. So Jax is always, every time we go away somewhere, even if it's, you know, to the grocery store, he's saying, did you go see Russell? Are you at work with Russell? And I'm like, I wish. I wish I was at Russell's house right now. No, I'm just kidding.
It's interesting about technology because
so that's one way that we do it.
Yeah, like if there's a video, they'll be like, "Hi guys," like they almost preface what you would do if you're doing a YouTube broadcast or whatever. So yeah,
and I think one of the awesome you guys are doing is to be able to try to develop a business where you can be around.
Yeah,
There's so many. I see, you know, that dad might have to travel away for 2 or 3 weeks of a month, and they just say, you know, other parent, their mum or whatever, working odd hours all over the place, and they don't. So I reckon it's really cool that you can see that.
Yeah. Well, we're changing it. Like, you know, like he said, him and his partner are selling the other business. There's also a building and whatnot, and, you know, future plans. We want to be able to take our kids with us wherever we can as well. And both of my parents actually were entrepreneurs. Sorry, my son's actually under the table right now. So I keep kicking him. I'm trying to get him to be quiet.
And he's got a cough.
This is another way we manage it. But you know, they never really exposed me to the business side of things, and I don't know if it's just because things were different then, and now it's so, you know, easy. Like you just pull out your phone and you're kind of exposed to it more. But I want my kids to be a part of it, you know, whether they choose to do that when they grow older or not. I just wish that for some ways for me that I was a lot younger, knowing and understanding that I could do this thing instead of figuring it out now. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah. So, I think you already did mention where we can get your book, but I just want to make sure that you let us know again, and your viewers, how we can get in touch with you, or how they can get in touch with you.
Businesstribes.com.au. It's AU from Australia. Business, does it come up? I think it goes backwards. Isn't it?
Oh yeah. Nope, we can read it.
Yeah, and we'll put a link in there as well for all of our guests so that they can see it and they can check out all the awesome stuff that you're doing. And thank you so much. You dropped some really cool nuggets and advice and stuff for us here. So we're again so happy that you took the time out of your conference and came to chat with us.
It's been great to meet you and the family.
And
inadvertently, yeah.
And it just shows family's important, and they're all.
Yeah.
But also, funnel family across the world, I reckon that's pretty cool too.
Yeah.
And even here at this conference, they've got a little booth for ClickFunnels, and everybody got a free book as they signed up, and I've been able to share some opportunities with people. You know, you go and be part of the ClickFunnels family. So that's it.
That is so awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we will chat with you again soon.
Okay.
Thanks, Tony.